Hi, welcome to video 2 in your Elements of Art and Principles of Design photo collage. So we kind of left off just like this, right? So you created this document, you added the grid lines and you locked those grid lines. Then you added each of these individual rectangles or squares. Let me see if I can select one. There we go. So you added each of these squares in the little sections of the grid. And that's, like I said, that's where we left off. So I just want to show you where we're going with this. So your collage eventually will look something like this. Mine is not quite done, but it's getting pretty close. So what we will do eventually is we will have each of these little squares filled with a photo and it'll have some text in it. So each of the squares will illustrate one of the elements of art or principles of design. So through these 16 squares, you will illustrate all of those. So that's just kind of, like I said, where we're going with this. I wanted you to have some sort of vision in mind for the end goal here. Okay, so back to where we're at right now. So we have everything, kind of the main bones of our collage set up right now. What we're going to do is just organize it. So we are going to start by creating some groups. To do that, you can just click on this little file folder icon in the bottom of your layers panel, which when you mouse over it, it says create a new group. So we are going to create a group for each of the elements and the principles. So there are 8 elements of art that we use and 8 principles of design that we use. So like I said, each of those is going to get its own group. So what you could do right now is you could create 16 groups. So you can go ahead and click on this little button right here 16 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, and as you can see here, now as I scroll down in my layers panel, I can see I have group 1 through 16. And while I'm here, I'm going to increase the size of my layers panel. I can click and drag that up a little bit, but now for some reason it won't let me resize these guys. So what I could do is I could drag my layers panel out. The nice thing about Photoshop is that the workspace is really customizable. So I need a little bit more room for my layers panel right now just because I'm going to have a lot of layers. So what I will do at this point is I will rename each of these groups according to which element or principle it will represent. So I'm just going to go ahead and go down the line. I'll start with line, shape, form, space, value, texture, type, color, and etc., etc. And I'll go ahead and rename these groups. To rename, all I need to do is double click on the group name and go ahead and type something in. Again, double click and type something in. So I'll go ahead and do all of those. Okay, so I have all of my groups renamed. Now all I need to do is I need to put a rectangle or a square, they're called rectangles on here, in each of those groups. So probably the easiest order to do that in would be to rename each of these rectangles and match them up with a group that is named the same thing. So I'll rename each one of these for one of my elements or principles. So I'll do the exact same thing as what I just did with those groups, and I will go through and rename all of them. Okay, again, I have all of those named. Now I need to put each of these squares into the appropriate group. So I need to match up my Unity square with my Unity group. I'm going to highlight the layer that contains my square for that group. I'm going to click and drag it up until I see that blue line around the group name or the group layer and drop that in there. Mine should all be in order, so I can just go through and put all of them where they belong. Okay, there we go. Now I'm all organized. I have a group that is titled one of my elements, and then within that group I have a layer that contains a square that is also titled the same element. Okay, so right now I am going to collapse some of these. I just want to show you how this works. So my groups are just sort of an organizational system. So they're just kind of organizing my layers so that I don't have one big pile of layers here. I can expand my group or I can collapse it. When I collapse it, the arrow is pointed to the right. So I can see that there are contents in that group, but I actually can't see those contents right now. So I expand it and I see what those contents are. So if you want to keep everything nice and neat, you can collapse all of your groups. When you are organizing your layers, if you happen to drag this up and you were trying to put it in a group, but you release it like this, where there is just a blue line across, that is just reordering your layers. So I didn't put that in a group. I need to highlight that group name in order to put it in a group. So I'll put it in the appropriate group. So right there, it's in my Unity group, or it will be in my Unity group as soon as I release my mouse. So I do that and I can see that it's in there. So what I would recommend that you do at this point is you click through all of these groups just to make sure that you have the same name as you do the name for the group as you do the name for that layer that contains the square. So go ahead and expand all of these again if you've already collapsed them, or maybe you want to check this before you go ahead and collapse them. But that is all you need to do for this part of this process. We will work on adding our images to this collage in the next video. So good luck. Let me know if you have any questions or you run into any difficulties.